All right. My name is Genevieve Gessert. I'm Director of General Education, and I'm also a Professor of Archaeology and Classics at AUR. I have met some of you already via Zoom meetings, doing some summer advising, but some of you I'll meet next week in one-on-one meetings. But this is a chance for all of you to ask and have answered questions that you might have about the process of advising and registration. And so I'll be telling you a little bit about the whole structure of what the courses you're going to be choosing, general education versus your major and things like that. And Zoe Smet, our registrar, will be telling you a little bit more about the process of transfer credits, things like that. So I don't know if you want to say a little bit more, Zoe.
Yes, hi, good evening. Yes, so we are doing this, joint presentation, but it's also really a space for your questions, just for you to be aware that if you're a freshman or if you're a transfer student, things might be slightly different. But we will be talking about this as well.
So I thought maybe just for our information, just so we can understand who's in the meeting and who we might want to, direct certain particular answers towards. If you want to, in the chat, just go ahead and type, if you're a first-year student, a first time in college person, or a transfer student, and what your potential major is going to be. And that'll give us a chance to sort of pitch our remarks towards your particular areas of interest and information. So if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat, that would be great. But I will go ahead and get started with some general information, and I'll take a look at the chat as we go. And in general, at the end, we'll have our questions. You can type them into the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just ask a question using your voice once we've done some of our presentations. Okay, so let me start by sharing my screen. We have a little PowerPoint. So let me just get it on the right slide. All right. So this is our PowerPoint. Our session today is all about registration and advising. And as you already heard, I'm Genevieve Gessert, Director of General Education, and Zoe Smet is the registrar. And I'm going to be talking about general education and your major, and Zoe's going to be talking about the registration, advising, academic support in general. So what I want to first talk about, just, for some of you, this might be totally familiar if you're coming from an American institution, but for others, it might be totally unfamiliar, the whole idea that when you come to AUR, American institution, you take courses that fulfill two main areas. One is called general education, which are the courses or the areas that every student studies, no matter what their major is. And then, of course, your major, that is the course of study that you have chosen, your specific area of interest. So one of the things that is the philosophy that we work under as a liberal arts institution is the idea that every student should have a well-rounded education, a little bit of knowledge in lots of different areas. Of course, you're going to specialize in one or more areas, given if you choose a major or a minor or two minors or even a double major. But there's a certain number of courses that are outside of those areas of specialization that you also take to have what we call liberal arts knowledge. And the reason why we sort of promote this kind of learning is because it is the kind of learning that is expected in the workplace. Whether you might be getting a job in a specific field, oftentimes you're using your skills and your knowledge that derive from other fields to help you in the workplace. So, for example, if you may be looking for a job in business, but you might need skills in filmmaking and writing and lots of other things that make you a well-rounded student, but also a well-rounded employee. So oftentimes when people think about general education and their major, they think of them as separate pieces of the pie, that you're just, you're taking courses in your major and you're taking courses in general education, and you're maybe taking some electives, meaning courses that fall into neither category, and they don't intersect. Whereas that is not true. Every single one of our majors also has courses that fulfill general education requirements. So you shouldn't think of your major and general education as completely separate. In fact, your major and your general education requirements oftentimes intersect, like this Venn diagram. So typically how it works is, there's a certain number of courses that you're just, while doing your major, you automatically are fulfilling general education requirements. And I'll talk about this in a little bit. But the general education system, the courses that you're taking that are part of what everyone takes, there are certain components of it. And I've been talking, if you're a freshman, I've been talking to you a lot about the foundations of English, quantitative reasoning, AKA math, Italian, and your first year seminar. And in this case, I should say first year seminar rather than seminars, because there's just one. So for many of you, you start at the beginning of these foundational areas and you go through a sequence of courses. If you're a transfer student, you may have already fulfilled one or more of these areas, or you're not obliged to take it. So if you're a transfer student who's been in college before transferring in 70 credits, you don't need to take a first year seminar, for example, or you may have already taken math or English and things like that. So this is, a lot of transfer students don't need to do these areas, especially if you've already been in college for a few semesters. You probably have already fulfilled most of these areas with the exception of Italian. So perhaps you do have Italian coming from your original institution, but most students don't. So that may be still an area that you will need to fulfill outside of your major. The area that intersects most with majors is this area called breadth of knowledge. So this is the place where you're getting your diversity of knowledge. Everyone has to take one course in creative arts, two courses in humanities, 2 courses in social science, 1 course in natural science. And these are courses of your choice. They are not specific courses. So, but in every major, there are courses that fall into one or more of these categories. So for instance, if you were an art history major, you would be already automatically taking courses in humanities and creative arts. Or if you're a business major, you would already be taking courses in social science. So this is the place where there's the most overlap. And this is very typical of an American institution where you have exposure to these broad areas of knowledge. The area that's a little bit more specific to AUR are these 2 areas. One is called diverse perspectives, which is getting you to look at diverse ways of thinking in terms of gender, class, ethnicity, nationality, lots of ways. And again, most majors have a course that deals with diversity within the major. So, you don't really have to often try to choose a course that fulfills this, unless you're interested in choosing something outside your major that might fulfill this area. The other thing that's very special to AUR is that every student needs to have a non-traditional, you could say, a non-classroom based course. We call this course requirement Roma Caput Mundi, meaning you're going to be out going into the city and taking a class on site in a museum, walking around the neighborhoods of Rome, doing things in the city instead of being in the classroom. So if you are a first year student entering and you take 2 of these over your entire AUR career, if you are a transfer student with 60 credits or above, then you would only take 1 of these. Some of our majors already have these courses, again, built into their requirements, like archaeology and classics, art history, fine arts has some opportunities for this. But many of the majors have also electives that fulfill this requirement. So this also gives you a chance to learn the bus system in the city of Rome, how to get around the different neighborhoods, things like that. So it has a practical application as well. Now, one of the also specific areas to us is what's called an alternative educational experience. Now, this means some learning experience, that is where you apply your learning in a you could say it's traditional classroom setting. It could be an internship. It could be a practicum, such as our excavation that we run every summer is what's called a practicum. It could also be, doing an independent project. And I'm going to be talking to you about this alternative educational experience in detail in just a few slides, because it's quite important, especially for those of you who are coming in and wanting to graduate in 4 or 3 semesters. This is something you need to plan for, and I'll talk to you about the options for that. And many of you who are coming in your first year, you might also want to be thinking about this and planning it for the future. So I just wanted to also show you a few diagrams that gives you some ideas of the way you can customize this system to your personal interests. Okay, so that everyone, before I go to that, everyone needs to have 120 credits total in order to receive their degree. And this can be with your transfer credits plus your AUR credits. It can be your credits that you get in your electives and your major and your general education requirements, but 120 credits total. Now, a lot of students, take this model. They spend most of their 120 credits on their major. It's their biggest group of courses. So they take, between 50 and 80 credits in their major. They fulfill their general education requirements, and they just take a few electives. These are electives that don't fulfill any requirements, just for courses that they want to take. A lot of students use this model, and they spend most of their credits in their major. Other students choose also to add on, in addition to their major, a minor, and so have three groups of courses that intersect with each other rather than just 2, and then also the small group of electives. It's also possible to do two majors, so 2 big groups of courses that are to fulfill the requirements of 2 different majors, and then you're maximizing the overlap with general education, and perhaps even in some cases courses also overlap in 2 majors. So, for instance, art history and archaeology have quite a lot of possibility of overlap. What's important is, again, 120 credits to degree completion, whether in any of these models. Okay, so if you're just going to do 1 major, no minors, it's 120 credits. If you're going to do 2 majors and a minor, it's 120 credits. Okay, so that's what you need to fulfill to graduate. And so you can customize your time at AUR in lots of different ways. But what's important is that you need to complete both the requirements of your major or majors or minors and your general education requirements, in addition to receiving 120 credits. So that's the overall picture of what you're going to be needing to do in your time with us at AUR if you want to receive your degree at AUR. For those of you who are transfer students, I do want to put a little bug in your ear about this particular requirement, because it does take some time to fulfill. And some things are good for you, or things that you want to do for your personal aspirations or particularly fit into your major. And other times people want to do something that's customized to their individual interests rather than their major interests. So the alternative educational experience, I'm going to take you through, there's a number of ways to fulfill this requirement that also bear credit. So a lot of students do an internship to fulfill this requirement. But if you are in the situation where you're coming to us with 75 credits and you only have 3 semesters to spend with us, you may want to choose something that doesn't take so much time. An internship requires 135 hours in 1 semester, and that is in addition to your coursework. So you only get 3 credits for the class, so you need to be taking other classes alongside it, likely 4 courses alongside it. So it's a very time-consuming way to complete it, but it's a very valuable one. Another way that I want to suggest to those of you who maybe are worried about this requirement or want to fulfill it quickly, available this fall is another sort of internship called Real Projects. And unlike a standard internship where you individually are going off to a workplace and doing an individual internship, this is an internship that is on campus, and it's a group internship. So the group of students who enroll in this work on a project or projects that are given to us by a client or clients. And as a group, you work on that project. So it could be designing a new ad campaign for a small business, or you know, I don't know, organizing a conference for a nonprofit, something like that, you know, a project that students can work on together that needs different kinds of expertise. So especially for those of you who are transfer students, who might be wanting to think about fulfilling this requirement, but also if you're interested in this sort of experience, it's a very valuable sort of group experience. You can also enroll in this as soon as the fall. If you're a freshman, you can actually enroll in it as soon as you've completed your English 101 requirement. So as soon as the spring, others of you who are freshmen are eligible to participate in real projects if you want. There are also lots of other things. Some majors have practica, that means practical experience built into the majors. So for instance, archaeology and classics has the excavation built in, that's ARC 293. Communications has a communications practicum, which is a magazine. You work on an actual magazine for a semester that's published in Rome. So and we have a few others like this. You can also participate in 3 one-credit field trip courses, and we offer several of these every semester. And you can see here are some examples. In fall, we're going to, you know, all these cities you see on the screen. In spring, we have scheduled all the other ones. So right now, a lot of them are full for the fall, but as soon as you return in the spring and you're enrolling in your spring classes, you'll have first choice as a returning student for these field trip courses. So that's another way if you want to, you know, these are courses, but they are travel-based courses rather than on-campus courses or even in Rome courses. And of course, some of you, if you're coming to us and you want to study abroad from AUR to another institution, then you can also count that towards this requirement. So a couple of the main ways that students do this is through exchange with Emory or through our own study abroad program called AUR Abroad or AURA. But some students don't want to do any of these things, and I want to just let you know that it's possible to do your own individual project to fulfill this requirement. So for example, I have a student who volunteered on a lavender farm this summer and produced as her reflective process for this a visual journal where she did paintings and wrote about her experience. So something like this, which is is not as many hours, but it doesn't receive credit, you fulfill the requirement, it allows you to pursue a personal project. So there's a lot of possibilities in this area, but I want it, especially for the transfer students, for you to be thinking sooner rather than later about this requirement. And if you have any questions about it individually, you can email me or you can ask at the end of the presentation. So that's all I wanted to say about our general structure. And Zoe will talk to you a little bit more about some specifics. And Zoe, just tell me when you want me to advance. Or you can advance, I think, can't you? Or no, because I shared it. You have to tell me to advance.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, so I'm going to talk a bit about registration and advising. So the idea is that I know all of you are probably very eager to understand how your schedule is going to look like. And while we're going to ask you to have some more patience because we're still working on it, some of you already met with an advisor and defined certain things. Some others still need to have a complete schedule. And I'm going to explain how we work on this. So you want to go to the next slide? Okay, so yes, why is this, because at AUR, every student is different and you all come from quite different backgrounds. So it's not that all freshmen are going to take exactly the same classes, right? There is a set number of classes that students are expected to take, and these are the foundation classes. So the foundation classes are in English, Italian language, and math. These are the 3 series of requirements that you are expected to complete before being a junior. So in your first year of AUR. Also because as Genevieve explained, for example, for certain courses, if you want to do these real project course, you need to fulfill English 101. That's why we want to make sure that you start with the basics. So in case you haven't taken this or you haven't received credit for these equivalents, we will put you in these classes to start with. Then for freshmen who have advanced placement scores, and this is mostly for the International Baccalaureate, the AP, if you've done an AP exam and with the American system, the Italian Maturità also can give you advanced placement credits and A levels, some others as well. And so we are aware that students who just finished high school might not have these results. For example, just this morning, we received the official IB scores, which we are still processing. For transfer students, so for students who have actually already attended a college before coming to AUR, we are collecting transcripts. We have received many of yours, and we are in the process of processing them. And why is this so important? Because, you know, we need to complete the process of transfer and credits in a correct way so that we can actually register you accordingly. What we really want to avoid is that we register you for, let's say, an English 101 class for which you actually already have met the requirement with advanced placement or with college credits, right? And so how we have set things up is with this summer advising for freshmen. So you probably, if you're a freshman, you've been contacted by one of our academic advisors, and Genevieve has been in touch with quite a few students, but also Professor Lorenzo Corretti is advising freshman students in film and communication, and Professor Jenny Petrucci, who is our director of the first year program, has been working with some freshman business students. And so the idea is to have these, if you haven't yet had them yet, is to have one-on-one advising sessions so that you can understand the program. We can also understand better what your background is, what you've done before, and make sure you get the right classes. Why is this? Because, as we said, there are certain set of courses that we want you to take in your first semester, from which also, sorry, I forgot to mention the first year seminar if you're a freshman. But if you registered for 3 or 4 courses, usually, so you would be registered for the freshman seminar, for an English language course, for an Italian language course, and for 1 course in your major. And then potentially there is still a 5th course that you can choose from. And this is also something you can discuss with your advisor. For what concerns the transfer students, the situation is a bit more complicated. What we are doing here in the registrar's office is actually, as we complete the transfer credits, we pre-register students in the courses, let's say in compulsory courses. So in compulsory courses for the Gen Ed, but also the required courses in the major. And this means that transfer students will be usually registered for 3 to 4 courses, and they will actually be meeting with their academic advisor in their major during the orientation week to complete their schedule. And usually, you know, they have done 1 or 2 courses still to choose from. And so that will happen during the orientation week. But not only the transfer students, also the first year students will be meeting with their advisors. If there's still something to tweak, just to meet with them, to get to know each other, and to answer eventually more questions. So this is how we've set up things. And so transfer students will be receiving an email later at the end of the month from me with some detailed information about how their transfer credits were transferred and how they were pre-registered. Yes, so what I also maybe want to sort of remind is that if any of you have not taken Italian and is not transferring, let's say, credits in Italian, but you know some Italian. So sometimes, you know, students are mother tongue, but they've not done an Italian school system. Or, you know, you've studied by yourself, but you don't have like a sort of credential so that we can award you credit. I strongly advise you to take the Italian placement test. The Italian placement test will allow us to eventually waive you from the first level, Italian 101, and place you in eventually the second or further levels. So this is something you can find on my AUR. You should have received an email from admissions about that. Yeah, we can go to the next slide, Genevieve, thanks. So we also just want to remind you, and we will be talking more about this during the academic orientation, that there are several academic support services at AUR. So for you to understand, your academic advisor is a faculty member in your major who will be following you, who is assigned to you for the length of your studies, right? And the academic advisor usually helps you choose the right classes to be able to fulfill your degree requirements, and advise you, like, you know, sometimes students, it's like, oh, maybe I'm interested to do a minor, what would work well, or I'm interested, you know, in such a career path, what might be useful for me to take. So students will meet with their academic advisor, as I said, during the orientation week, and then during the semester, typically they will meet with their advisors when it's time for registration for the following semester. But in general, this is the person they can go to with academic questions. Also, first-year students will have Jenny Petrucci as the director of the first-year seminar, and actually also some peer mentors assigned to the first-year seminar, where, you know, they can answer a lot of questions for freshmen who might have more questions. AUR also has help desk, just for you to be aware that there is an English writing center, so you can go to if you're having, you know, difficulties to do some research, literature research, if you want to, you know, understand better how to write a paper. So this is, you can just make an appointment and meet with the writing center. We also have a help desk in math. And we have an Italian help desk as well. So you just have to sign up to make an appointment, and there's, you know, faculty member who are there to support you if you need extra support. For some students also who are going to be taking English 101, and we actually, you know, during the first week, the English professors see that these are students who will need extra support. They might be required to actually visit the writing center to make sure that, you know, they have the right support to be successful in writing. Writing is so fundamental because you're going to be writing in all your classes. So we put a lot of attention to that. It might seem sometimes a bit not attractive, an English composition class, but believe me, these are just fundamental tools that you will need in your studies here at AUR and in your further professional life. And then besides academic support services, we also have mental health counselors. So if, you know, outside of classes, you're dealing with hard situations, you know, we all know, and many of us are not born in Rome, and we know that transitioning to Rome can be really challenging. And so we have counselors that you can make appointments with if needed. Okay, we can go to the next one.
I think the next one is just for questions.
Okay, well, there we are. I
Yes.
think
I guess the only other thing I would mention
Yes.
for academic support is that we do, of course, give learning accommodations for anyone who needs them. You know, so if you have documentation for learning accommodations that you received at your previous institution, whether it's a college or a high school, you can submit that documentation to us, and we can evaluate it to understand which learning accommodations you're entitled to. So if you need the information about who to send that information to, just ask in the chat, or you know, you can ask me or Zoe personally through the chat if you don't want to ask in the public chat, and I'll give you the email address for the person you send that information to. So at this point, we'll throw it open to questions. I'm going to stop sharing. So if anybody wants to type a question into the chat or would like to unmute themselves and go ahead and ask.
Good evening, y'all. I have a question here. I know, just to reiterate, y'all mentioned that not all of our class schedules have been made yet. So I'm currently at 3, and I wouldn't consider myself a transfer student because I only have about 9 credits. So I guess the first week of orientation, I would get with my counselor and add a few more on there.
Yes, and so this is also something that, yeah, and we didn't mention that we're still processing. So actually, so students who have taken college courses after high school are considered transfer students. But for our students who have taken less than 30 credits, we actually individually evaluate if these students would need to take the first year seminar. And the idea is that even you've taken a couple of college credits, the first year seminar really gives a solid preparation in the liberal arts. And also it's really creating a strong cohort with other freshman students. So this is something that we're still processing and that we'll be looking into. Maybe this will be also your case. In that case, we might also connect you with an advisor earlier. We will let you know. We're really processing. So we really have to ask you for some more patience, but we're not forgetting anyone here.
Yeah,
I don't know
we'll
if
be
you want to
in
say
touch
something
with
more.
you.
I don't know, Genevieve, if you want to shortly say something more about the first year seminar.
Yes, and so some of you have already heard about this, but also some of you will when I meet with you individually, because I know I see 2 of your names are people I'm going to meet with next week. The first year seminar is essentially an intro to AUR. It's a team taught course with 5 different professors in 5 different disciplines, but it's not in a discipline, it's on a theme. So the 5 professors approach this theme from their different disciplinary perspectives. And so once a week, all the students who take the class are together, experiencing something together, typically a lecture, but sometimes a film or going on a field trip. And then the other day of the week, you're split into smaller groups for discussion, and you're discussing that experience along with readings. And when we organize the sections for the first year seminar, we've split people up by major, by nationality, by gender, in every way to give as diverse a group as possible. So it allows you to meet lots and lots of students and also learn from different professors in different disciplines. So you get a really good understanding of how AUR works, what disciplines we teach, and you get to meet a lot of, other students besides your roommates and the people in your major classes. So that's the first year seminar. So there's some students even who come in with more than 30 credits and they're like, okay, well, I've never been fully enrolled and I'm coming in with, let's say 35 credits, but I've never been fully enrolled. And they say, okay, this sounds like a good class for me to take, even though I've been in college before, because I, need the experience. I'm not familiar with AUR or whatever, so there's also some students who come in with more than 30 credits, sometimes for whom this course is appropriate.
Okay,
So I see.
awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. So I see Thomas asked a question about registration, about being afraid of not being able to take the courses you want, and I understand your concern. I see you're an experienced student with registration, so we basically reserve some classes for incoming students. But yes, you might have some limitations also, because as I said, we just really want to make sure that you're taking the core classes that you need in your first semester. So we're going to make sure that you are registered in the core requirements so that you're not delaying your graduation. But I understand you might be a bit concerned, but we're really doing our best to make sure that all the students have the courses they need and can also eventually, when they can choose, have some options of things to choose from. And again, as Genevieve said, once there's registration for the following semester, you're the first ones to register, and then really everything is open, and sometimes if For example, our on-site classes are always very popular. And so they're, the classes are taught in Rome, and they're scheduled also in these block mornings. So sometimes it's just difficult to put them in a schedule during your first semester, but no worries. We offer them every semester. And so if it's not going to be this semester, you'll for sure have the chance to take it the next one.
You won't be stuck taking courses that don't do anything for you.
Exactly.
We make every effort to put you in courses that further you in your program of study. That's the priority in the first semester. And, and of course that information is limited because we know what major you've chosen, but we maybe don't know about your other specialized interests. And so we're limited by that, but for sure you'll be in courses that are, important gateway courses to get you where you need to be. And as soon as the spring, you'll be first in line to choose what you individually want to choose. But our priority in the first semester, whether you're transfer or a first year student, is to get you in the courses you need to do. And that's, so everyone is already in Italian, everyone is in we want to put you in the English course that you need, that's required for your particular level. Many of you transfer students, if you're coming in with 60 or more credits, you won't need to do English at all. But those are things we, so if you are a transfer student and you haven't submitted your transcript, then it might put a fire under you to do that.
Yeah.
The sooner
Also
you do that, the sooner we can put you in those courses that you want.
Yes, absolutely. And we need original transcript from each school you attended. So because some students have attended several schools, so we always need the original ones. Also, if you're a transfer student and we see sometimes that you receive credit for AP results, we need to see the official AP results. So in order not to lose any credits, make sure we receive all your official documents. I think some admissions counselors have already started asking you when we saw that something was missing. But yes, this is what we're currently working on. I also see a question from Kelly about if you're able to change your classes. This is not possible right now, as I said, since we're still, working on completing your schedules. But you will be able to make changes together with your advisor during orientation week. And then also during the whole first week of classes, there's going to be add and drop. So there's eventually space to make changes to your classes. I mean, we still want to make sure you're in the fundamental classes that you need. But if it's possible, maybe to get to another section where the schedule works better or things like that, then these are things that will be possible to change. Yes.
So if you're a transfer student, you have been put all of you have been put in one Italian class for now. So we put you in one Italian class that the freshmen are not eligible to take because it conflicts with the first year seminar. But many of you can move to a different Italian section, for example, if another time better suits you or things like that. So that especially is flexible.
Yeah, what you see is not final. Bear with us, thanks.
Any
other questions?
Okay. Well, I think that, so some of you I know are going to be meeting with me next week. If you're a transfer student, like Zoe said, you will receive, if you haven't already, soon in the next several weeks, an email from her regarding how your credits have been transferred. If you don't know where you stand or what category you are, that is probably you're like Macy, who you're sort of in between. And we're in the next few weeks really trying to figure that out and get people sorted into their right groups. So you'll hear from one of us in short order about that. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, feel free to email either of us. It's usually all AUR emails are first initial dot last name at AUR.edu. So I'm G.Gessert and Zoe is Z.Smet at AUR.edu. So, or any of your professors, you can also, based on the courses you've already been enrolled in, you can also email them in the same way. It's very easy. So feel free to email us if you have any additional questions, and we're happy to help you with any questions you have.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.